I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, July the 14th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is fast acting, small dose, easy to use, short withdrawal period, made in North America, effective telithromycin injection at affordable upfront price. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri, they're expecting 6,000 head of feeder cattle here for the regular Monday feeder cattle auction. It's going to start at 6 o'clock in the morning. There will be at least 50 straight loads of yearlings during this sale. So if you guys need some yearlings, get in there, get on to DVAuction.com, view and bid that sale. Joplin has scheduled a special cow and bull sale on July the 31st, so be thinking about that. Unpredictable, and I showed you how dumb I am on Friday for Friday's report. I'm pretty good at giving the market reports and pretty good at giving them timely. They come out, early in the morning, if as early as you want it, it's there and it's got the latest available. But sometimes I stretch out there and think that I know how to predict something, or at least have a feel for it, and I don't. But I had said on Friday that I thought that the board would probably fall on Friday. The board had been up every day of the week last week, Monday through Thursday, kind of defying a lot of stuff. And they still hadn't traded fat cattle on Thursday, so many times when they do that, then the board breaks and feedlots end up having to take less money than what they were wanting for fat cattle. Plus, we had that huge Superior video, Week in the Rockies last week, and all that hedging pressure from cattle changing hands there. I thought, my gosh, it's got to hit at some point. No. In fact, your feeder cattle futures went up $4.05 on Friday, and your fat cattle went up about $3 nearby, so I have absolutely no feel for that. But I apologize for that, but I'm sure you guys have made the same kind of mistakes before. But the market is just... It's just, resilient. It doesn't seem to matter what happens. It just comes back stronger and stronger and stronger. And I mean, we passed unbelievable prices a long time ago, and now we're just getting into ground that nobody thought we would ever get to. It's great for your cow-calf producers. It's been really great for your backgrounders as it's been coming up. But the backgrounders are going to have to pay big prices for their replacement stocker cattle now, or cattle to put in their growing yards. So that's likely over. Cattle feeders, they're having to pay a lot more for cattle than what they want. So they're having to have a lot of financing to try to get cattle paid for to fill their lots. And but the fed cattle market's been going up right along too. How much longer can it go? These packers have slashed slaughter. They're not slaughtering hardly anything. I realize the carcass weights are a whole lot heavier, so they're getting product. And then we saw a big sharp gain right over the 4th with your box beef cutout values, but then they fell right back down there last week. So not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure how we're going to hold this feeder cattle index up this week. So our August feeder cattle futures, which is the spot month there, they're up over 325 now, and that is higher than our index levels. And I'm not sure we're going to have, I don't know of too many special sales this week and maybe next week. They are having the King of the Ring in Dodge City there at the end of next week, but this week I don't know of many sales, special sales. So I don't know, you've got to have the cattle to keep that index high. And so many of these direct sales and videos and stuff, they're not current delivery. The whole delivery period has to be within the 2-week window for them to be considered current, and there's just not very many current deliveries, so they're not going to help. Not sure how we're going to keep the index levels up to keep promoting these high prices and that high feeder board. I want to congratulate the winners of the International Livestock Auctioneer Championship. They have that at the Calgary Stampede, and that is my favorite auctioneer contest by far. That is the most fun you can have doing this kind of stuff. I really missed being there this year because I've been several times, and in the most recent years I competed in it twice and I judged it twice over the last 10 years. So, and then of course we had COVID, so nobody could travel then, but I've been a lot here lately, but did not go this year. But the International Livestock Auctioneer Champion is Tyler Bell, a young auctioneer that sells at Oklahoma National Stockyards, does a real nice job there. And then Reserve Champion International Livestock Auctioneer was my friend Colvin Connell, and he's one of my favorite auctioneers from New Mexico, and he does an excellent job, and I was glad to see him rise to the top too. So that was great. I was talking to my buddy Kenny Danzer. He's a feeder cattle buyer, order buyer from Kansas, and he was telling me about Fredonia Livestock Auction's in-house video that they had on Friday. Now he had a regular sale through the ring on Friday, and then had several video lots. Brad Hahn did there, but he was telling me about the Jeff Oaks Ranch at Fall River, Kansas. They sold 175 head of 925-pound steers, be top quality blacks, near delivery within the next 2 or 3 weeks there. Those 925-pound steers bring $319, and then Jeff Oaks had saved the clip of the feeder flash that week, which I had talked about his cattle 3 years ago, and the same cattle, basically the same weight. Everything within reason was exactly the same. And this last Friday, they brought $319. 3 years ago, they bring $173.25. Wow! And we have that's basically our rally here has been the last 3 years. I mean, it's been up and down a little bit, but it's been pretty much straight up here for the last 3 years. I want to tell you about some cattle that might be affordable enough to make some money. My old buddy Ellison Carter down at Santo, Texas. It's just west of Weatherford, Texas. He has order buyers all in Central Texas there, and again buys a lot of cattle in there and ships them out to people. These would be delivered prices for cattle that he shipped over the weekend from last week's buy. Going out to customers, and you can get in on this if you want to. Get a hold of EllisonCarterCattle.com and get the information. Get a hold of him. He's a great guy, and you can get some of these cattle ordered. This would be as reasonably priced as you could get them. But this is what he shipped on Sunday for steers and bulls. I shipped a load of 320 pounders at $404. They would be a little bit plainer. Those would have been, and have some crossbreds on them. A group weighed 330 pounds at $438. Now they would be fancy and good enough to go anywhere. Solid colored, a lot of blacks on them. Good cattle. Load weight 420 at $401 delivered. Load weight 455 at $385 delivered. Load weight 515, again the plainer type there, cost $324 delivered. Load weight 620 pounds, all black, at $329. Load weight 735 at $314. They'd be all steers. And then load weight 815 pounds. they would be steers and some cutting bulls on them. Maybe a tick planer there, 815 pounders at $291. Now look at the heifers. They had some 305 pounders at $4 smooth, 410 pounders at $388 delivered, 470 pound heifers at $368. Some weighed 500 pounds flat, a little plainer at $339, and then some weighed 530, a little fancier at $342. 580 pound heifers delivered for $331, 615 pounders for $326, and some fancy, maybe keeping kind heifers, 640 pounders at $319 delivered. So get a hold of EllisonCarterCattle.com if you're interested in something like that. How about your board for last week? August live cattle futures. Monday was up $1.85. Tuesday was up $4.07. Wednesday down 20. Thursday down 55. Friday up $2.97 to end the week at $222.20, up $8.15 for the week. Your October contract ended the week $219.70, up $8.80 for the week. Look at your August feeder cattle. Monday was up $4.22. Tuesday was up $5.40. Wednesday was up $1.35. Thursday was up 80 cents, and then I was stupid enough to think that it would fail on Friday and there'd be profit taking and things, but no, it was up another $4.05 on Friday to end the week at $325.32, up $15.82 for the week. Wow. September ended the week at $325.40, just a tick higher, and that was up $16.03 for the week. Your grains took a hit. Now everything's been great for the feeder cattle. Grains are even cheaper. December corn new crop 412 1/4 down 24 3/4. November beans 1007 1/4 down 42. Hard red winter wheat for September 524 1/4 down 11 3/4 cents a bushel. Ouch. Fed cattle trade up through Thursday at 2 o'clock when the turning deadline to turn that information is. They had only sold 18,500, but indeed we moved quite a few cattle last week, a decent movement last week because we had higher prices, and when you have higher prices it promotes more trade. Live sales of fat steers and heifers in a 5-area feeding region negotiated last week from $225 to $241, $6 to $7 higher. Your weighted average on live steers was $235.14, up $5.41, but that was just on the 18,500 that they sold early. They had a big movement on Friday, so all this is going to change. But dress sales range from $370 to $380, up $5, and dress steers from weighted average at $379.16, up $9.86. As a whole, late in the week there, Northern Plains was selling live from $235 to $240. That'd be $3 to $5 higher. Southern Plains dressed, or Northern Plains dressed, excuse me, at $380, $10 to $12 higher, and Southern Plains at $230 mostly, $5 to $6 higher. Wow, big gains. Friday's trade in Iowa, they sold 12,300 on Friday, 22,150 for the week. Your live sales in Iowa on Friday, 235 to 242 and 380 dressed. Nebraska, 9,800 on Friday, 14,800 for the week. Live sales 238 to 240, dressed 375 to 380. In Kansas, they sold 6,300 on Friday, just 7,650 for the week. 228 to 238. They're starting to get a little more of that northern market more regularly in Kansas, and some dress trade at 380. Texas, sucking hind tit like usual, 850 head, 3,100 for the week, and your live price in Texas, 228 to 230. I will say the 230 in the Southern Plains on commodity cattle was reached by the Fed Cattle Exchange with competitive bidding on their online platform there. And after 2 o'clock deadline, they did sell the balance of their Texas show list for 230. So there'll be more up there. But look at box beef cutout values. For the week, all of last week, your weighted average on choice cuts, 386.75, down 7.19. And then your late Friday sales were about another $8 lower than that at 378.64. Dress sales weighted average on all of last week's trade, 373.32, down 7.41. And your late Friday afternoon trade was about another $7 lower than that weighted average at 366.49. On the weighted average choice select spread, $13.43. All that information based on only 542 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter last week was disappointing, 565,000. Can't compare it to the previous week because of the holiday in there, but it was 33,000 a head less cattle slaughtered than the same week a year ago. Talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index ended the week after all the sales had closed at 320.01. That was up $7.08. Now you compare that to your CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index, which ended the week at 323.37, and quite a bit higher than your real-time index. And the CME Feeder Cattle Index includes Valentine, Nebraska, and our real-time index don't. So, they'll level out after a while. There's a lot of markets that we're in that they're not, but that's just the change there. Talk about your trends in your auctions last week. Feeder cattle sold $5 to $10 higher than they did the previous week. Calves $8 to $12 higher. Now, big sales late last week or over the weekend. How about Fort Scott, Kansas? Fort Scott Livestock Auction. They had kind of a special there. They had about 2,500 feeder cattle there. It was your Superior Steel Sales, Superior Standard Livestock Handling Equipment stick out sale of the day. And you look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see what a nice sale they had. Had many well-tested weight groups. How about 195 head of 5-weight steer calves, average 554 at 375.82. There were 367 head of 6-weight steers in Fort Scott, average 645 pounds at 363.53. 223 head of 7-weight steers, average 734 at 342.31. 579 head of 8 weights, averaged 866 at 314.50, and 178 head of 9-weight feeder steers in Fort Scott, Kansas, averaged 929 at 310.51. You look at the heifers, 164 head of 5-weight heifers, averaged 561 at 347.39. 131 head of 6-weight heifers, averaged 637 at 326.18. There were 224 head of 7-weight heifers, averaged 764 at 309.05, and 159 head of the 8-weight heifers, averaged 826 at 307.89. Look at some individual quotes from all around that were very impressive last week, into the week, and over the weekend. Bluegrass Stockyard in Richmond. Now they had a whale of a sale. Now they sold 60 head of 903-pound steers at $324.50 in the ring in Richmond, Kentucky, about a block and a half off the town square. That is amazing. How about Fredonia Livestock Auction through the ring there at their special sale they had on Friday? Brad Hahn, the owner-manager there, he sold some of his own personal spayed heifers off his Flint Hills ranch there. There were 328 of those spayed heifers They weighed 842 and bring 320. You couldn't make a steer bring that 2 weeks ago, guys. But the most impressive quote that I heard anywhere late last week and over the weekend, and it was actually on Thursday, but I didn't get it until late, but it was at Valentine Livestock Auction, Valentine, Nebraska. They had the Powderhorn Ranch. No programs on these cattle, just steers. 121 head, 873 pound steers bring 347. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.